All right, this is going to be my last opportunity to go over area of triangles, acute and obtuse and right, okay? So this is it. We're going to move on to lesson 4 tomorrow, and lesson 4 builds on everything that we've done the last 3 lessons. Okay, always start out writing the formula first. Base times height divided by 2. Here's the key. This is an acute triangle. I'm going to call somebody up, and all I want you to do right now is tell me what the base is, or highlight what the base is. Because really, the formula has been easy for you. Knowing what to substitute in, that's been the tricky part. Alex Vecchio, come on in. Come on up. Just highlight the base of this acute triangle for me. The hardest part is knowing what numbers we need and which ones we don't need. So highlight the whole entire base. Well, I was going to have you got it, but this is the base of our triangle. Okay. Does everybody agree with that?
Yes.
Therefore, you need both numbers, right?
Yes.
What do you have to do to both numbers in order to get the entire base? Add them together. So if you add them together, 3.3, and you should be doing this on a calculator, you're going to wind up with 9.4 as your base. Did you get 9.4 as your base? Now, I'm going to put my multiplication in parentheses because we have decimals, and if I use the dot for multiplication, there's just too many dots all over the place. What's our height? Or sometimes called our altitude? Stephen?
4.4.
Correct. And we got to divide that product by 2. So assuming that you do everything correctly, because you could use a calculator, when you do everything, you should get 20.68 square inches.
I got 37. Yeah.
Well, now go back and analyze what your mistake was. Did you have 9.4 and 14.4 as your sub-in numbers? Did you remember to divide by 2?
Yeah.
So the only thing you might want to do, and I'll let you do it right now, is punch it into the calculator again and see what you get. Because sometimes that's another error that you make. Is you simply punch in the numbers incorrectly on a calculator. I would do everything twice on a calculator anyway.
I don't even know. That's the only one I did. I guess right. Hi, Logan.
Number 2. First thing I'm going to ask you is who wants to come up and highlight our base?
I don't know what I did wrong.
Charlie. Everybody get 8 as our base.
Yes.
Why not 13? Well, what kind of triangle is this? So why isn't our base 13? Stephen?
Hypotenuse.
That's not the reason why we don't use...
You're not supposed to add 8 plus 5.
Say it, Charlie.
You're not supposed to add 8 plus 5.
Why not?
Because that's just the 5 is showing how much you have to go to find this grade.
Exactly. It's not part of our triangle that we're trying to find the area of. We're trying to find the area of this triangle right here. So that 5 feet is a throwaway number. We don't need it. What's our height or our altitude? Now we kind of do need this because even though it's not part of the triangle, we still need to know the triangle's altitude or height. Anthony?
12.
Correct. So these become now our critically needed numbers. Same thing, base times height divided by 2. Base, as we said, is 8 times 12. I am going to knock out 2 numbers. Watch what I do. Watch. I'm going to get rid of my 2. I'm going to get rid of my 12 and make them what?
Numbers. 26.
And now I'm able to do 8 times 6 in my head, and what do you get? 48 square feet. Aiden Marangola asked the question, what is your sprint going to be on Friday? Your sprint is going to be knockouts. I'm going to give you a number times a number divided by 2, and you got to knock out one set and then multiply it in your head. That's basically your okay? And Anthony, yes, if you're able to knock it out in your head, all right, if I see my 2 and my 12, and I'm going to make this a 1 and make this a 6, and I want to do 8 times 6 in my head, you can do that. You don't have to show the crossouts, okay? The way you would do it, though, is the way I showed you. You just don't need to show it that way. Yeah.
On the test Tuesday, are we going to be able to use a calculator?
Yes. Okay. All right, number 3 is just very simply a word problem where they just don't give you the shape. It's the shape of a triangle. So when you see triangle, automatically you should be thinking, okay, base times height divided by 2. That's my formula for a triangle. Doesn't matter how I draw it. And doesn't matter what my base is nor what my height is. I have my two sides, 32 and 48. I don't care if I call this the base or this the base. It's however you lay out your triangle. But I have my two sides.
Is it divided by 2?
I can knock out.
Yeah. 48.
You could knock out either one, but it's going to still leave you with two numbers that you probably can't do in your head, but you have a calculator anyway. So as long as you cross out one set, you could do 32 times 24. Or you could do, if you want to do 16 times 48. Either way, you'll get 768 square inches.
Yay.
And that will be done. Okay?
I actually got that one right.
Yes.
Is it supposed to be feet squared because it's feet?
You're right. It's feet squared. Thank you.
No, you got it wrong.
I'm not sure why this one confused some of you. It's essentially the same question as you did before. You have a triangle. If you wanted to, you could change these fractions or mix numbers into decimals. How many of you did it as decimals? Okay, if you do it as decimals, base height divided by 2. It doesn't matter what you're calling the base or the height. I could call this 4.5 and call this 2.5, or I could go vice versa. It doesn't matter.
Wait, is it supposed to be a half?
4.25.
Oh. Wait, Mr. Listen, aren't you supposed to use a half if you're gonna do fractions?
Say that again.
Half? Remember you said that the-
Well, I'm showing it to use decimals first. For those of you that did it as decimals, 4.25 becomes 4.25 times 2.5 divided by 2. That's if you do it as decimals. If you do it as fractions, which I do think takes longer, it does, because you got to change your mixed numbers to improper fractions. But you wind up with a half times 4.25 times 2.5. Now, if you did it as fractions, after you've done your math, and assuming that you've done your math correctly, you wind up with 5 5/16. And that would be square feet in this case. As a decimal, who has it? 5 point.
5.125.
Correct. Either or would be acceptable. All right? If they give you numbers or fractions that you can take from your fraction families because it's in your head and change them to decimals, I do think that's the easier way. Because then you can use a calculator for that. See, if you keep them as fractions, you're kind of forced to have to do it by changing them into improper fractions, cross-reducing. It just makes it longer. They won't always give you fractions that fall into your fraction family. If they give you 4 5/7, guess what? Now you got to do it as fractions. All right, the 7th family is not in your fraction family. And number 5, if you did everything correctly, you get 20 square inches. Does anybody want me to go over it, or are we good?
What is that?
Cross out. What is it called again?
Knockout.
Yeah, knockout.
Well, what you wind up with, when you substitute it, it becomes 10 times 4 divided by 2. You can knock out the 10 and make it a 5 times 4, or 10 times 2, knocking out the 4. Either way, you'll get 20. Did you get it right, Abe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Guys, I'm going to give back your exit ticket from Friday. I need to go over it with you.
You good?
No.
Bill?
Actually,
The grades were disappointing on it. I need to go over it with you. So I'm going to hit pause here, and then I'm going to go over it. Same thing, last opportunity for me to go over this stuff before the exam next Tuesday. What shape is this?
Is a parallelogram.
What's the formula for a parallelogram? I had told you guys, you need to go back to lesson 1 to find the formula. Somebody raise their hand, tell me what the formula is for a parallelogram.
A equals base.
Nick,
A equals base.
it is not base times height divided by 2. It's not a triangle. That's where many of you started off. If you have the wrong formula, you're going to get the answer wrong because you can't divide your product by 2. You should not divide your product by 2. And then you were okay with substitution, 8 times 7. 56. And don't throw away silly points because you leave off your units. I took a point every time. No naked numbers. Make sure everything has the proper unit. The next two are triangles, so you're okay with area equals base times height divided by 2. You just need to know what your base is and what your height is. It's a right triangle. If this helps you, anything that's touching the right angle is the numbers that you need. If it's not touching the right angle, you don't need it. I'm going to knock out 2 and 12. 54. In this case, feet, square feet. Number 3. A lot of mistakes with 3. It's not 22. We don't care about this piece. This is the area of the triangle I'm trying to find. My base is 15. My base is 15. This is a throwaway number. I do need the 8 because I need the altitude. And then watch, I'm going to knock out 2 and 8. 60 square inches. Okay, where I saw most mistakes was number 3, a lot of 88s, because you thought that the base was 22. And then, of course, with number 1, if it's a parallelogram or a rectangle, it's just straight base times height. Don't divide by 2. All right, we're going to pull together what we've already learned, what we should have already learned about perimeter, and combine it with what we learned in this module so far with area. All right. Our first shape is a parallelogram, so let's do area first. What is the formula for a parallelogram? Start there. Kirsten. Correct. Everything starts out with the formula. All right, what's the base of this? Don't call out, raise your hand. Steven?
24.
Correct. Remember, opposite sides of a parallelogram or any rectangle are equal. So if this is 24, this is 24. If this is 10, what's the other? And you're going to see we're actually going to need it later on. All right, what's the height? 4. Correct. Are we going to split this product in half? No, we're going to multiply straight through. So you'll have your calculator again. Do it twice to be sure that there's no errors in punching in the numbers. But if you do it correctly, you'll wind up with 192 square feet. All right. Now we haven't done perimeter in a while. We used to do it as review sheets. But how many sides does this shape have? 4. So our formula is P equals, which is our perimeter. If it's a 4-sided shape, then you need S plus S plus S plus S as your formula. If it's a 3-sided shape, like a triangle, you'll only need 3 S's. What are the sides of our parallelogram? Go ahead, Jack. Plus, plus, plus. What now becomes the throwaway number that we don't need when we do area? Right, we need the 8 for the area, but now we don't need it for the perimeter. What was the throwaway number when we did the area? Okay, so that's good that you know the difference. And again, yeah, you could probably do this in your head, but if you have a calculator, I would use it. And if you do everything correctly, you get 68 But here's my question for those of you that remember, what are the units? Because it's not feet squared anymore. Tyler, it's just feet. We don't need, we're not finding the area, we're finding the perimeter, which is the distance around something. No feet squared, just feet. Okay? Every time you're done with the page, you got to come up and see me. All right, now, let me pause this.